All right. Hello and good morning, everyone. Really nice that you came out here this morning. It's one of the rather first events of Waves, I would say. And yeah, we're gonna hear and talk about the peculiarities of of the Swiss market this morning with some really great representatives. And to start off, I would like to ask our great panelists here to introduce themselves in a couple of sentences so that you know who you have in front of you. Jean, do you want to start? And then we just go up.
Thank you. My name is Jean Zuber. I run for 15 years now the Swiss Music Export Office. For 1 year now we have Joanna as a brilliant collaborator, and we're only two people actually, besides our brilliant intern, which is who is here too, Nina in the back. So this is Swiss Music Export. 100% of the staff of Swiss Music Export is here. We're a small export office of a small country. I will talk more about that later.
Fabienne, thank you, Jean.
Good morning, early birds. Yes. I'm Fabienne, Fabienne Schmucki. I run a record label and a record distribution company called Irascible Music. We're based in Lausanne and in Zurich, and I'm also a board member of Indie Swiss, that's a Swiss Independent Labels Association, and a member of the Phono Producers of Swiss Perform, which is the Swiss Neighboring Rights Association. Nice to be here.
Thank you, Fabienne. Philip?
Hello, my name is Philipp Schnieder. I'm the head of the M4 Music Festival in Zurich. That's sort of the waves of Switzerland. And yeah, I'm glad to be here.
Thank you. Ale?
My name is Alan Schurze. I run an artist development agency called Young and Aspiring. We exclusively work with Swiss newcomer artists. And I'm in charge of the PR label management division. My colleague is doing the booking, but he's not here today. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Some more about my background.
Whatever you...
I
Sure.
I did a master's degree in music industry management in London, and I used to work for several record companies and agency, including Sony Music, PS and Beggars Group, Musikvertrieb. Yeah, and I started out as a musician.
That's always important. Thank you so much. My name is Joanna. I'm going to be helping to facilitate this discussion conversation today. I, as Jean said, joined Swiss Music Export almost a year ago. Before that, I was with TikTok in Berlin in the music team. And before that, and also still, I'm also a musician, which I don't know if it's the same way in all other countries, but in Switzerland, that's most of the music professionals have wonderfully also a music background. And so that you can hear some, actually no, before that, besides the Swiss people that are supporting us here today, by a show of hands, do we have Austrian people in the, yes, okay, so I guess most of you are Austrian, beautiful, and then a couple of Swiss, nice. So that you can hear a little bit about the Swiss market, some facts and figures, and also for us to see, you know, what could be the parallels of our markets that hopefully in the future will interact more on a musical level. Jean will have a quick presentation around 10 minutes to show you some important facts when it gets to the Swiss music market. If I knew one, I would tell you a joke in the meantime, but I don't know any jokes. Really bad.
Can you see something on this screen? It's called Swiss Music Market. That's the topic of today. I'm really clearly the wrong person to tell you about Swiss music market because all my job is happening outside of Switzerland and I don't know anything about Swiss music market. But I have been chosen here to do this. So I will do it quite short and people might correct me. People who really know better about the Swiss music market, like the market representatives here on the table. Okay, sorry. Switzerland is about the same size as Austria from the inhabitants, a bit less square meter, but we have 8.7 million inhabitants. We have not a big, let's say, we're not concentrated on in one city. It's a bit less than other countries. We have 6 cities, more than 100,000, and none is more than 500,000. So we have quite like many villages around in Switzerland. Yeah, we have a high domestic product, GDP, also per capita, which for me is not an important figure. I still have it because we had the same presentation some months ago with to compare Switzerland and Austria, and Franz Hergovic, he showed the same figures of Austria. That was interesting. Here it's maybe a bit less interesting, so sorry about that. We have 4 language regions famously, but I must say they are very unequal. The biggest one is sure German, which is, as a fact, is Swiss German, which is a strong dialect. So we, the Swiss German sing in Swiss German. They have no chance to be understood in Germany. We have 22.8 French-speaking people in Switzerland. This is all over Switzerland. The graphic on the right is the colors, like you see French, German, Italian, and Rätoromanisch. But of course, there's many French-speaking people also in the German part. So these numbers on the left has nothing to do with the graphic on the right. We have very small amount of people speaking Rätoromanisch, but many people speaking English, Albanian, Portuguese, and other languages. We are not part of European Union. You might know, but this brings us some problems. This brings also some problems to maybe to artists coming from other countries to Switzerland, because they're leaving the European Union. They're still in Schengen, but for some tax and for some carnet problems, you might have to be aware of that. I'm not sure if this is interesting, but especially not for the Swiss people in this crowd. We have some history. We don't have Mozart. We don't have the super famous people. Our stars that you might know from history, because I'm asked this a lot when you hang around somewhere outside of Switzerland. So who is the famous Swiss musicians? And you come up with DJ Bobo or the Young Gods, maybe the Yellow. They're a bit cooler. Until recently, we had Tina Turner as the most famous Swiss musician. She passed away. She had a Swiss passport. So nowadays, we're more talking about our clients are more like Priya Raghu. You see them on the left. Faber, Hermanos Gutierrez, or Sophie Hunger, and the likes. To this week in Vienna, you will have these 6 acts. They are all over on the posters. Tonight is Ikan Hugh and Annie Taylor. All female lineup. Congratulations to the Waves Festival, because we did not interfere in any way. This is 100% female lineup. I really like that. About the facts. This is these curves, you know them from all the countries since 2002, like the last 20 years, the development from physical to digital. It's climbing up. The market numbers of recorded. Now I'm actually not sure if this is only IFPI numbers or if the independent labels are included in that. I should have asked that earlier. Do you know that? You know, you don't know. So let's say this is the total market, is 223 million Swiss francs, which is about the same amount in euros for the whole recorded market. Oh, sorry, I go back. Of course, most of it is digital, and only 32 million is physical and download, and the rest is streaming. So where do the people stream? I found some numbers, but this is an estimation. This is not really what the turnover. This is really how people use the streaming services. This is, of course, the young people use YouTube, then Spotify, then by far behind Apple, SoundCloud, Deezer, Amazon, and Tidal and Napster. The older people are a bit, they use a bit less the whole thing, but still Spotify is the market leader by far of the music streamers. According to these numbers, people are not willing to pay. So only 46% of the Spotify users pay for an account. Apple's 42%. These are the numbers of SUISA. This is the Copyright Collecting Society, and how they interchange with other countries. So the biggest exchange, like the biggest money coming from outside, is from Germany. This is Swiss music played in Germany on whatever channel, and even the biggest share goes to Germany, of course. The biggest share goes, you see the number 2 is France, the number 3, there's a lot of US music played in Switzerland, and only a few, a small amount of money comes from the US to Switzerland through the Copyright Society. There's a big also, and number 7 is Austria. Obviously, there is a lot of Austrian music played in Switzerland, so 1.5 million goes from Switzerland to Austria as a copyright fee. That's interesting, a lot more than the other way. The bigger market is, of course, the live market in Switzerland. Switzerland has a very, very high number of festivals, of venues, and now this is a bit confusing graph, sorry. I wrote it on the right. The total market in 2022 is 382 million for the turnover of all the festivals. This includes all the members of SMPA, Swiss Music Promoters Association. Here also, I'm not sure if that includes really everything, but it's a big share of the Swiss live market for sure. This is 382 million, is more than the recorded market. If you talk with the industry, with the music recorded industry, they always talk about the recordings, and actually live, of course, makes more turnover. This includes only, this is like really the money for music. This does not include the bar turnover of the festivals. I thought I might do some name dropping. Now this is completely useless on this small screen, of course. There's some association of recorded of the recorded music industry, like the IFPI and the Indie Swiss. This only the indie labels. I think Indie Swiss has something like 40 or 50 members. A bit more, 60 members. Okay. Fabian is in the board of Indie Swiss, of course. And some of these labels, I wrote them down here. We have also the Swiss Music Publishers Association. We have the 3 majors, of course, Universal, Warner, and Sony. And they have 2 big, not major labels, the Musikvertrieb and Phonak, with some under labels. And all these other names, I don't mention them here now. I don't read them, but if you want this presentation, you can have it, of course. Swiss live industry, as I mentioned, we have many festivals. I don't know how many hundreds or thousands of festivals there are happening every year in Switzerland. The big ones like Gurten, St. Gallen, Gampel, Paleo Festival. There's some smaller, more boutique festivals. There's the Montreux Jazz Festival, very famous. I also have here in the list M4 Music, of course, which is a newcomer festival with a conference part. It's a completely different league than the others. Important are also the promoters, so who is behind these big festivals or big events if an artist is going to play in Switzerland. This is just a list. we don't have like hundreds anymore. This is like a dozen of big promoters in Switzerland. Good News, Gadget, Live Nation, of course, with their sub-agency, with their companies that they bought in Switzerland. CTS Event Team, of course, a big player too in Switzerland. They bought some other promoters. Do I have time to talk about Swiss Music Export short, or is it boring anyway?
You have 1.5 minutes.
Okay. We're the colleagues of Austrian Music Export. We have activities outside of Switzerland, which is part of the showcase festivals like Eurosonic, Reeperbahn Festival, and Waves. Vienna, for example, we have 9 of them that we are covering in Europe. We focus only on Europe. We do not do anything outside of Europe because we think the Swiss, with our small capacity, as I mentioned, we're a very small office. We don't have the budget to really follow a market like Japan or US. So we have to, on the big, what we really do is only in Europe. We have supported artists when they have activities in Japan or in the US, but usually our own activities are only in Europe. Mainly even in the German and French-speaking Europe, because this are the main markets for Swiss music. This is obvious. So we have to limit ourselves really strong. We also have activities in Switzerland which are mostly networking activities. We invite people, professionals from outside of Switzerland to come to M4Music to visit this festival, to see some Swiss artists playing, but mostly also to just do networking. Networking is a very big point of the work of Swiss Music Export. We do have some money. This is actually the wrong. We do have some money. We call this business support, to support artists directly. And we do give advice, we do consulting, we do activities like trade missions. We do a feedback club once a year to bring the Swiss people, the Swiss music professions together, and this is a very important meeting, I think, to exchange within the Swiss professional scene. We are paid, our work is paid, and our salary is paid by 4 foundations. One of them is the Swiss Arts Council, the Pro Helvetia, which pays 1/3 of our money. 2/3 come from private foundations, mostly out of the collecting society environment. We were founded originally, this is one, not a fun fact, but a good fact, founded by Philipp Schneider, sits next to me here, as a member of Migros Kulturprozent. They were also part of Swiss Music Export for a very long time. Now, for some political reason, no, for some whatever reason, not anymore. We still exist, but behind Swiss Music Export 20 years ago was Philipp Schneider. So that's about Swiss music market. Sorry, maybe a bit boring, especially on this small screen. If you want to have this presentation as a PDF, you can ask me anytime, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Jean. Yes, a round of applause, please. Since we're a relatively, small-ish crowd, I would say if you have a burning question to one of the things we're talking about, there's still going to be questions at the end. So if it's more like a general question, probably keep it for the end. Otherwise, if you have something that you really want to say or ask in the moment, just give a sign, and let's have discussion between all of us. And now I guess for most people not coming from Switzerland, the most burning and interesting question in this conference and this panel would be, I'm not from Switzerland, I'm from Austria, Bulgaria, whatever. What is the first thing I need to do if I want to bring an artist into the Swiss market? Probably Fabienne, just to have it a little on the promo, label, distribution side.
Well, wherever you come from, you just have to have a good artist or a good product or a good whatever, something that you think is worthy to export Switzerland obviously is not often first choices of people who want to export music. But it's, I mean, we're talking a bit more about that, but I think for several aspects it's an interesting market for sure.
Good. Alain, what would you recommend someone who would ask you that question and said, I do have the most export ready, most amazing artist I want to bring to Switzerland?
In my opinion, it's kind of like the same as in any other country, really. You have to make an effort, you have to hustle, you have to get in touch with people. And a good way to go on about that is getting in touch with Swiss Music Export, of course. There's some other ways that I like to suggest. For instance, like get in touch with local artists and ask them if they have like possibilities for you to support them. Again, like the Swiss Music Export playlist on Spotify can give you hints. There's some other playlists like Hyped and Swiss Made Spotify editorial playlist where you can kind of source some ideas. Apart from that, obviously, if you're a music manager, then getting in touch with Indie Swiss would probably be recommendable because they can give you all the information for like labels that you could get in touch with or promoters, booking agencies, etc. Yeah.
Absolutely. So to ask a follow-up question, probably also to what you said, Fabienne, why do you think the Swiss market would be an interesting one to get into? What are the things that make it interesting?
Well, one very specific thing is that we do have 4 language regions, so you can basically, if you break the Swiss market, you could possibly break into the German and the French market as well, because you know we're very linked, and so the Swiss-German market is very much oriented on the German market, and the Swiss-French market on the French market. And it's a small country. It's a very small, very connected music scene. There have been a lot of efforts done in the past. We have lots of programs to like educate and emancipate newcomers and new structures, etc. There's like several events who bring together the whole scene as such. So it's very easy to get to know a couple of key players, or however you want to call them. And that's a very, very, I think it's probably the most important feature of the Swiss music market. Like networking is super simple and can be done within, just visiting a couple of festivals and just get out there and talk to the people.
I think that is such a good point, how small it is and how connected. So if I'm a music manager, let's say I've already done the support tour for someone and I'm a music manager, like what's the next step? How big is the impact I can have as a music manager from the outside, from abroad? And at what point do I need to get in touch with Young and Aspiring or Irascible to get support on a local level? What would you say, Alain?
Do you mean to actually get a benefit from the Swiss market?
Exactly. Like how much can I do as someone coming from the outside and not like, being connected to local entities promotionally, distributionally?
I see.
Yeah.
So you're talking about PR and marketing stuff.
Yeah.
I reckon, like, for instance, getting in touch with our Swiss National Radio would make sense, SRF. They have also like shows that do cater for like less known bands from around Europe, like SRF Sounds, for instance. They could give you a push, and it would be a great selling point too if you're looking to get gigs or even get signed in Switzerland. Apart from that, obviously digital marketing, set up ads that specifically target the places you want to make yourself known, grow an audience.
Absolutely. Anyone else has thoughts on that? Either please.
Yeah, maybe my general advice would be like, if you do music which is in a niche, you have sort of a flame burning inside you for a special type of music or sort of speciality that you care about. And in every country where you go, you have people with the same sort of love for something. So what you just do is you find them and you go connect them and you show them that you appreciate what they do, and you just ask them like, would you mind to check out what I do? And you start to make a bridge, and like before you export something, maybe just ask for some advice, and people, they love to give advice. You see that here. And once they advise you, they might start to think like, oh, I really like these guys, maybe we could do something together. So really follow your heart and try to find the people that sort of burn the same flame as you do, and you can do your research, like your research, and I'm sure you're going to find them.
Did you want to say something, Jean, or did you just for?
I did.
Okay, all right. I think that's a great advice. And if we talk about niches, I think there's a very interesting parallel between Austria and Switzerland, which is the Mundart, the dialect. I don't know if in Austria you probably dialect, just music that I don't know if the Austrian dialect can be understood so well by Germany. But so how do you see the potential, let's say, for Mundart from Austria in Switzerland? Is that something that could work, or is that too specific? And our own experience with Mundart in Austria, for example, how does that interchange work?
Well, I think it has worked in the past several times. I mean, if you think of like après-ski dance tents and you hear DJ Ötzi or stuff like that, I mean, that was a very exportable thing. So, but obviously, I mean, hey, in the end, I'm not sure whether, I mean, we've had Mundart artists who were played in the French, like on the Swiss French radio. So, I mean, it really depends on what kind, well, like how important are the lyrics, and is it more like the music speaking, or is it really like the singing artist speaking, to the audience? We've had Mundart artists being played on BBC Six, so I think it's, it really depends on what you're selling, and in the end anything could happen, obviously. But I don't think you really want to start like a very Mundart focused career and then dreaming of exporting it worldwide. I don't think that's the good approach. But it might just happen.
Absolutely. So you think generally the language regions, when people come from Austria, let's not necessarily say they want to do Mundart, but let's say it's in English or whatever it might be. How do the language regions affect the way you want to promote something in Switzerland? I mean, I have obviously like my own experience with that in terms of like the professional music scene would sometimes feel very far away from each other, but especially you, which is I think so interesting. Irascibles is working in both, like not both, there's 4, but like let's say French and German speaking Switzerland. Is it important to like have 2 completely different strategies because it's 2 completely different parts of Switzerland, or can you tackle the Swiss market as one big thing?
No, you don't need different strategies, but I think it's a big plus if you have people speaking the language, which is spoken in the respective regions. So with our 2 offices, obviously we do promotion for the French part in French, and it has shown that it has more impact whether you approach a journalist working for a Swiss French radio in English or in French. So I think it is a big plus. If you work, I mean, you don't have to have 2 offices. You can just work with a local promotional agency. And anyway, like as a Swiss artist, what I always tell Swiss artists when they start out, like you can, by choosing who you work with and by choosing your structures, you can very much also help guiding a bit your career. Like if you say you're a Zurich-based artist and you decide to work with a Zurich-based label and a Zurich-based booking agency, etc., I think it just narrows your, the possibilities. So since we're so well connected and since everything is so small, why don't you work with like a Swiss French-based promotional agency or a Basel-based booking agency, etc. I think that's a little thing that already helps, giving you a bit of broader spectrum.
Absolutely. Any other points on this? Yeah.
I think the market are really divided, unfortunately, between the Swiss-German market and the Swiss-French market. The main cities in the French part, by the way, is Geneva and Lausanne. So if you go there, they listen to other radios. They listen more to French radio. They watch French TV, so they have another influence. I think it's of course possible to cross this border in this within Switzerland, and in the German part of Switzerland, which is Basel, Bern, Lucerne, Zurich. Maybe other cities, sorry. Then you have the influence from Germany, and of course the major labels, they are also run from Berlin, from Germany, and they should cover the whole Switzerland. Then you have again the problem that the French-speaking people in Switzerland, they listen more to the French radio. So it's a bit a conflict, and many artists tell me, and as an exporter, we have more problems going from Zurich to Lausanne than from Zurich to Munich, because this is just a normal exporting step, but going to the other part of Switzerland is very difficult. So I think this it still is a problem, and you need to do double promotion in Switzerland, and still not talking about the Italian part, which is very close then to Italy. I think this is a bit a challenge.
But then again, this is a very general approach. If I go back to the niche, I go back to somebody who's specialized in a special sort of music, like we have turbo music here with Tobias, and he's in, please do correct me, more like world music, some Irish connections and so on, going into folk music as well. If you connect with them, you connect not only to the whole of Switzerland, but also to his connection again abroad. And it's like, you're not interested in like language or territory, but you're interested in the community, and he knows how to connect the festival people all over Switzerland. So this sort of language barrier and national strategy, it's well, it depends. If you have a pop artist, major level, of course, you're there, but we're not here. But it's more, for me, it's more community, and your community partner might speak English or German or whatever, but you're gonna find a way of if you have the same sort of interests, you're gonna find a way of communicating.
And I think to bring the point to connecting and community, representatives of most community members are going to be found at the one of the biggest networking events for music in Switzerland, which is M4Music. And I would like to give you the word, Philipp, for a couple of minutes to present what M4Music is, what can be found there, and why it could be important to go there if you're, from abroad and are looking to get a network in Switzerland.
Yeah, thank you. M4Music is sort of the meeting point for the Swiss music industry, and that sounds again very big and sort of powerful. But think more of a class meeting of all the independents, and maybe a good strategy for you would to be like, first find your people that you feel a connection with, and then if you make a travel to Switzerland to go see their office, and it's in spring, sort of try to find the March date, so you can say like, yeah, I'm gonna see your office first, and then let's go to M4Music together, because then you can sort of target two things in one journey. You go see the office of your new partners, and then you go see the festival, and you're gonna have a good time, and you're gonna meet some other people, because the people sort of you're with, they're gonna introduce you to other people. So I think it's always good to go with a local guide to a new place. And that new place could be next March. Maybe we can go to the next slides.
Dominik, kannst du nochmals kommen?
Got the wrong glasses here.
Thank you.
That's good because I took the wrong glasses.
That was the slide before, the 22 and 23rd of March next year.
Yeah, maybe the next slide. Yeah, we have about 2,300 professionals, as we call them, delegates, they're called otherwares. Colleagues could be a good expression as well. It's the festival is not spread out all over the city, but it's very concentrated. So you don't have to walk for miles, and when you arrive, the band just finished. So you just go to the next stage and see the next band. It's all very close, and you always bump into the people again that you've met before. So you can establish really like connections, I guess. Maybe the next slide. We're Friday, Saturday, sometimes Thursday. There's like some pre-opening. 5 stages basically. One is outside. You see that one on the picture. For our inside, and we have about between 40 and 50 acts playing. And about apart from these more than 1,000 music professionals, we have about 5,000 patrons, so people who just like to see the music. Then we also have the expert talks, the conferences, the panels, the workshops. We try to sort of a bit get away from this just having expert talks like we have it here, more to like let's discuss a question altogether. That's sort of a shift in we try to mix this a bit, which is interesting because you really get to know your colleagues and it's not like a barrier in the middle. Although the pictures here tell you a different language. It's also great to work with Swiss Music Export on that point because Jean and Joanna and their team, they always invite also people from abroad, and then you have sort of these big shots coming from Germany, and oh wonder they have some time for you because they're not so busy running from one super important meeting to the other. Yeah, so see you maybe next year, and until then we're around here.
Thank you so much. And I think I would like to ask a follow-up question to the M4Music right away, which is, M4Music is not the traditional showcase festival as we know it from probably somewhere else, Reeperbahn, Waves I would say also. And how do artists get to play at M4Music?
Well, we sort of try to really show bands that we are interested in. We want to see them ourselves. So it's not just like come to Switzerland, we pay you €200 and you pay for all the rest, and you go back with your pocket empty. So we really try to negotiate on something which is fine for both sides. Of course, it's not so easy then to convince us because you're just not, maybe our space is more limited. So it's the booking team that sort of figures out who is on the rise, who could be interesting for Switzerland, who could be interesting in the future. And normally you have already a certain network bringing with you. You have a label that's in contact with the Swiss label. You are a booking agent that's already in contact with a booking agent in Switzerland, or you have a community that's really knocking bells and saying like, hey, it's time for this band to play the first time in Switzerland.
Okay, and how much would you say, just out of, obviously your long-standing memory, is how much Swiss artists versus international artists do you usually look for? Is there, from myself going, I know that there's always both, but how do you approach this? Is it just whatever comes up and is important, or do you have something in mind?
No, I would say it's about 50-50 because really we believe that the local communities is really important, and that you have to work with people around you, and maybe that's also a Swiss speciality. Like if you zoom out, Switzerland seems to be very chaotic. You have all these different towns, and power is distributed. And then if you zoom in, these little places are very organized, and you come there like, oh, it's very organized, and how do they do this? And because people, they work closely together, and that's why what we try to do first, we really try to work with the community, and it's important that they also can sort of have their artists playing within the festival, because it doesn't make sense like, hey, come to our festival, but we're not interested in what you do. So people would say like, nah.
Okay, yeah, understood. So, and probably for like now, the all you panelists, if it comes to live music, we've heard from Jean in the intro that we have so many festivals. What is essential if, you know, can a booking agency from Austria, probably it's different to Germany, but like, can you as a booking agency from outside book your tour in Switzerland? Or is it absolutely essential to have a booking agency in Switzerland?
I wouldn't say it's essential, but it definitely helps. Again, because of the different kind of language areas, it doesn't always work the same way in each region, or like we mentioned before, like it totally helps if somebody actually speaks the language. I mean, I wouldn't say it's impossible, especially if you're very well connected. But yeah, it's definitely a benefit if you do, you know, kind of like get connected with the community in Switzerland and ask them for advice or ask them for contacts, maybe get in touch with local artists.
Thank you. Do you have an additional point?
Yeah, actually, I was just thinking, are there many international artists touring Switzerland? I mean, like newcomers who play 10 shows, you know. I don't really think I've seen that often. Like usually either you play one show or two in the German part and one in the French, and that's it. And usually the artists are already kind of established, and they come when they've toured, you know, Germany, and then they also play a couple of shows in Switzerland. But it would actually be a very interesting thing to do, because it's as you've heard, like there's a lot of small-ish festivals, there's a lot of clubs, Switzerland is known of being a very good host. You know, the fees are good. There's so many small-ish cities. You don't need to play Zurich for a shitty fee. You play Winterthur for a great fee and a great audience, probably even better than Zurich. So you should just like that. Actually, I don't think I've seen that often, and I think it's something you should do.
Absolutely, I agree. We just kind of set up a tour for one of our artists who also plays a couple of showcases this weekend, Pino Palau. We teamed up with an Austrian booking agency / management, and booked a few dates around Switzerland, Germany, and Austria. And I think that's like a perfect example of how you can get like two newcomer artists together and play a few shows around the GSA area.
That sounds really promising. I learned so much about even international small-ish artists, newcomers, from our intern, because she finds the most random, smallest newcomers. And then I understand that there are like a couple of shows like that, but it's true. It's not something that then you do an entire tour. Now I have one last question for you, which would be towards the other side, because when I saw Jean's presentation first, I thought it was so interesting that Germany, like all the neighboring countries, are like on this list of Suiza, where like Swiss music is performed, you know, and where money is made from these countries. Austria is not on that list. I wonder if you have a new artist in your roster, is Austria ever on that list? To like, actually, let's work Austria, and if yes, why? And if not, why not?
Yes, it is on the list, and we've had bands on our label who have played and who've had a booking agency in Austria, etc. But I wouldn't say it's the first country we try to break into. That is true. But I mean, as soon as you talk about, you know, Germany or GSA, it's you think it with the whole, like, if you tour GSA, obviously you want to tour Austria. But I don't think I've ever just tried to break an artist into Austria without Germany.
Yeah. Okay, interesting. What about you?
Yeah, same goes for us, really.
Yeah.
As sad as it sounds, but Germany is just a way bigger, more powerful market. And if you actually do manage to get like a booking agent in Germany, they might also be able to book your shows in Austria. That being said, I mean, going on tour and playing in Vienna is obviously a step you do want to do. And being played on FM4 definitely helps too.
I think it depends. If you would do alpine music, and I'm not just talking about Schlager, but also about modern sort of mixtures with traditional music and new music, maybe the strategy Austria, Switzerland could be fruitful, because there's a common set of, we do festivals for this special audience, and you have communities which are focused on that audience. So, but with sort of city pop, avant-garde-ish music, more for urban spaces, of course, Vienna people first look to Berlin, and Zurich and Geneva people and whoever first looks to Berlin, and I think that's a natural way of how we behave. We first see the promised land before we see the hinterland.
Thank you so much. Well, if there's no point to be made by the panelists at this point, I would ask if you have any questions about anything that was discussed, the presentation, anything at all? Yeah?
The Swiss Music Export playlist. We have a Swiss recommendations made by Nina. She's perfect. This list is great. Every day, every week a new update.
Yeah, that. And if you do want to listen to a show on the radio, it's definitely .ch. That's like Monday to Friday, every evening from 7 to 8. And they only play Swiss music.
Any other suggestions?
Well, not only Swiss music, but a good chunk of it, and also just good music, is Couleur 3, which is the national radio in the French part of Switzerland. And then there's a lot of small-ish independent radios in the German part who play very good music, and they also have their specialized Swiss music shows, like Goffa on Radio Dreifach, etc., which are also like online radios and work also as like small regional independent radios.
Do you want to introduce yourself really quick? I forgot to say that if you no. Perfect. Thank you, Frank. Anything else? Yeah. Uh huh. Great question, Fabian. Go for it.
Yeah, well, there we encounter a similar problem also, like with the markets. I mean, the Swiss German press is very, like, the specialized music press is basically German press. So, you know, like whatever, like if it was Spex before, or Rolling Stone Germany, etc. So people would rather, you know, buy these magazines. So there is a couple of magazines left, but they're very small. Like, you know, they don't have many readers. There's Loop magazine, which still exists. There is like print magazines. Not sure. Yeah.
It's mostly like day daily newspapers.
Yeah, and then the cultural sections of the daily newspapers, but they've also been shrinking heavily. So, I mean, the whole written press when it comes to music is, I wouldn't say not I mean, I wouldn't say it's like not, you know, it doesn't exist, but certainly nothing that like it was 10 years ago. So it's still nice if you play a show, if you have like in a local newspaper, if you have like a preview or something. But definitely it's not a game changer for like streaming or selling records anymore.
There's very few outlets that actually are of good quality. I can maybe think of maybe 4 to 5. But yeah, it's just getting kind of like less and less, unfortunately.
What other four?
Negative White are back. They're really good. Indie Spec for indie music. Rockstar Magazine, they do like a monthly roundup for Swiss music, which I find quite cool.
Phosphorkultur, which
Yeah.
just came up new, and then there's Orange Peel, who still have a blog. Yeah, and then a couple of French-speaking ones, but honestly, I have to say I don't really know the names.
The thing is, like Switzerland, in terms of PR, it's much more focused on the whole radio kind of field. That's still a more important part of the whole PR game.
Any other or following up questions to that? No? Well, then also we are right at 11 right now, and I think if not anything else, we would wrap it up. And thank you so much for coming, and thank you to all the panelists and the organizers. Thomas, thank you so much.